and shake the whole body. Yeah, let's loosen up the waist. And now bring the feet together and we'll loosen the knees. Change direction. And now we'll do the ankles. Change direction. And the other foot. And change direction. Today we'll talk about wrists and fingers. But first let me kind of outline the whole Qigong approach to the joints. So basically the premise of Qigong healing for joints is very simple. That we want to increase the circulation of blood and qi to the joints so that the blood and qi can help the joints heal and rebuild. So then the issue is how do we increase the circulation of the blood and qi? Well, One of the things is through movement, because the principle of increasing the circulation to relieve the illness is the corollary of the principle that the illness occurs because there's not enough movement and the energy stagnates in the joints, so the joints become stiff because of the energy stagnation. So we increase the movement by working the joints, and we have two different modes of working with the joints. So depending on whether we're dealing with arthritis or we're dealing with weakness. But we want to relieve arthritis, then we use gentle movement. If we want to relieve weakness, then we use movement that uses more muscular force. So we tense the muscles and tendons to strengthen them. But if we're dealing with arthritis, we want to first try to heal the joints by gentle movement. Then after, say, 6 months or so of healing, then we can begin to rebuild them using movements with muscle tension. In either case, the healing depends upon an increased supply of bioelectricity, qi, to the joints. And so one way we do that is by training ourselves to use our minds to lead our qi to the areas that we want to work on and heal. Some of the treatment involves massage, and so for the larger joints, we use the Lao Gong gates in the center of the palms to massage the area and lead qi into the area. And so in those cases, we want to increase the amount of qi that flows to our Lao Gong gates. And in other cases, we'll use the mind to lead the qi to the joints, like the smaller joints. Well, use the mind to lead the qi to those joints through the qi channel. So we have to have relaxation of muscles and joints so that the qi can flow to the joints. And we need to have a strong flow of qi to the joints we want to work on. In order to boost the flow of qi to the Lao Gong and to the joints, we can use the qi circulation methods such as the 4 gates breathing. So 4 gates breathing is based on the foundation of reverse abdominal breathing, because we have intention to move the qi strongly. And so if your first task would be to become comfortable with the reverse breathing, and then to go on to leading the qi to the hands and feet in 4 gates breathing. So the 4 gates in 4 gates breathing are the 2 Lao Gong gates and the 2 Yang Chuan gates in the bottoms of our feet. So if we stand, in order to do the 4 gates breathing, we need to be standing. Otherwise, if we're sitting, it will inhibit the flow of qi to the Yang Chuan gates in the feet. So standing with feet hip width apart and palms facing the earth with the joints not too sharply bent, so not like this and not like this. So elbows and wrists not too sharply bent. We inhale and we gently pull in the lower abdomen and gently lift the perineum or pelvic floor, same muscles that control the anus. And as we exhale, we gently push out on the lower abdomen and gently push down on the pelvic floor. For the moment, we'll warm up just doing reverse abdominal breathing with the mind held steadily in the lower dantian. So we exhale, gently push out on the lower abdomen, gently push down on the perineum. And we inhale, gently pull in on the lower abdomen and gently lift the perineum. So long, slow, deep, even breaths. We use about 80% of our lung capacity, 70 to 80%, so the breathing's deep but still relaxed. So if we spend a couple of minutes just doing reverse abdominal breathing with the mind in the lower dantian, we'll build up the quantity of qi in the lower dantian. Now, let's begin to lead the qi to the hands and feet. So we inhale, abdomen and perineum up, mind in the lower dantian. But then as we exhale, abdomen gently push out, perineum gently push down. We move our mind to below the hands and below the feet. Imagine the hands and feet are pressing into the earth. So inhale, the mind moves back to the lower dantian. Abdomen in, perineum up. And exhale, mind moves out to below the hands and feet. Abdomen gently push out, perineum gently push down. You might imagine your hands and feet are pressing into the earth, but don't tense the muscles, it's just a thought. So we continue with the inhale, mind in the dantian, perineum. Gently lift, abdomen gently pull in. And exhale, mind under the hands and feet, abdomen gently push out, perineum gently push down. Visualize breath and qi flowing out through hands and feet. Well, remember, tongue, tip of the tongue should be touching the roof of the mouth, in the place where the roof of your mouth is most sensitive or ticklish. So the 4 gates breathing will help us bring qi. Well, it's pretty much working all the joints, isn't it? because we're leading the chi out the hands and out the legs, so that gets all the joints of the arms and the legs. Perhaps the neck and spine aren't benefiting quite as much. But we're improving the chi circulation to all those joints. And helping to break up chi stagnation that might be occurring along the channels that run up and down the arms and up and down the legs. So part of the problem with the joint could be chi stagnation that occurs not simply in the joint, but somewhere else in the channel that runs to that joint. Particularly we're talking about fingers and toes, because they have the channels running through them. So the Four Gates breathing helps to smooth out the chi circulation in the 12 channels, 6 in the legs and 6 in the arms. Okay, as we're leading the chi to the limbs with the Four Gates breathing, then the next issue with the treatment is, are we wanting to strengthen the joint, or are we wanting to heal the joint? If we're wanting to strengthen the joint, there's an exercise called muscle tendon change, where we lead the chi to the joint and then we tense it in different directions. So if we were dealing with joints of the legs, for example, we would lead the chi down into the bottoms of the feet. We would twist and then sink and hold that for 5 seconds. And then come up, inhale. Lead the chi down the legs, put the mind in the bottoms of the feet. Twist, and then sink, and hold for 5 seconds. Okay. We don't want to do that with arthritic joints. This is a strengthening process. If we were dealing with wrists, here's how we would use the strengthening process. So we lead the chi to the wrists. And hopefully, if you have the sensitivity to the feeling of the chi inside your body, you'll actually feel the chi arrive. Then we tense the wrists. I believe there's 7 different directions in which we tense, because the wrists are highly mobile. So, for example, we lead the chi to the wrist, and then we could push down with the heels of the hand. 2, hold the breath. 3, 5, and inhale. Lead the chi to the wrist, and push down, tensing the muscles. So this would be one direction, just sinking the wrist. Then you would do that 7 times, say, so 7 times 7 in terms of the movements, 7 different movements and 7 repetitions of each movement. So now the wrist can also move this way. So we lead the chi to the wrist. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One, two, three, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Well, the wrist can move this way, fingers turning in, so we would do that direction. Lead the chi to the wrist. So when you lead the chi to the wrist, you want your mind in the wrist or maybe in the lao gong. But if you have the feeling, then you'll know where the right place is to make sure that the chi gets to the wrists. And then turning in. 5. Inhale. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so on for 7 repetitions in that direction. Then we have the downward like this. So we did this, the first movement, so downward like this. Remember that we want to make sure that the chi gets to the wrist, so we have it in a relaxed position as we lead the chi to the wrist. And then we hold the breath and do 5 times the tensing and relaxing. Okay? So that was like 1, 2, 3, 4 directions. Now we also would have this direction twisting. So inhale, lead the chi to the wrist. Actually, you can do both at once. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. And then we would have the other direction this way. Okay. All right. So that was 6. Trying to think if there's one I'm forgetting. We might be tensing like this. Okay. This would also get the fingers. So you would lead the chi to the hands. Now, if you're working on wrists, you would just lead the chi to wrist or lao gong. If you were working on fingers, you would lead the chi till you feel the chi come to the end of the fingertips. So, tightening and then relaxing the fist. Okay. So that would be 7. Now fingers are a lot simpler, but we have 2 modes. So if we were wanting to rebuild the fingers and strengthen them, we would lead the chi to the fingers and then clench the fists. Tighten and relax 5 times. Okay, so you don't have a lot of variation of direction with the fingers. Although I suppose you could do this with them. In addition to tightening them, you could stretch them this way. Okay. So that muscle tendon change uses the tension. Lead the chi to the joint and then tense it. Work the muscles and tendons and ligaments with the extra chi that you've led there to help rebuild the joint. Now, healing the joint if it's arthritis, and it's probably easy to tell whether you've got arthritis or just a weak joint, because a weak joint isn't going to necessarily hurt when you're not using it unless you've done something to it that has aggravated its weakness. But the arthritic joint will hurt just on its own. So the arthritic joint, we want to use gentle movement and no tension. So again, this healing mode goes on for 6 months or longer, where you try to use these gentle movements to heal the joint, and then you can go to the rebuilding exercises to try to rebuild the joint. But first, you have to deal with the healing. So to move the fingers, again, we can lead the chi to the fingers and with the reverse breathing or the four gates breathing. And actually, you can do this if you're just concerned about the arms, hands, or fingers. You could do this sitting down, because you would simply use Lao Gong breathing. You wouldn't worry about breathing in and out the bottoms of your feet. So it would be a lot more comfortable just to sit down, do Lao Gong breathing, lead the chi to the tips of your fingers. And then as you inhale, draw the chi back. So we're trying to promote the chi circulation in the healing mode. So we're going to exhale, lead the chi to the tips of the fingers. Actually, when you get the tips of the fingers, you'll feel the chi go on. Beyond the tips, that's okay, that's what we want. Then inhale. Breathe and put the mind in the dantian. Lead the chi back out. Now we don't do that with the muscle tendon change, because we want the chi to stay in the joint and help the joint rebuild. But in this case, with the arthritis, we want to improve the circulation, so we'll lead out, we'll lead back in. So exhale, the mind is at the fingertips or slightly beyond. Inhale, mind's in the lower dantian. And again, this will help break up any chi stagnation in the channels that run up and down the arm. So if the problem with the deterioration of the joints of the fingers may be something where the chi is stuck higher up in the arm, this will help. This Lao Gong breathing will help to break up that chi stagnation. Incidentally, there are side benefits to this because you're improving the chi circulation in the channels of the lung, pericardium, and heart. So this is benefiting the organs in the chest. So that's a nice extra benefit or you're trying to heal your fingers, benefiting the organs in the chest, improving the chi flow there. Now there's another mode of breathing that we can use in addition to the four gates or Baogong breathing if we're talking about just the hands, and that's joint breathing. So joint breathing, we want to heal an injured, but the same thing goes if the joint is injured, just like if it's got arthritis. So in order to heal the injury of overuse of a joint, we would do the same thing that we do for arthritis. So in order to heal the joint that's injured, we need the chi there as well. Now, the other mode of breathing is joint breathing. And in this case, we're going to improve chi circulation to the joint by imagining breathing in and out of it. And I've talked about this before with the lower back, how you would breathe in and out of the injured area of the lower back or the arthritic area of the lower back. Well, here now, we want to put our mind in the joints of the hand, and you can do the wrist at the same time because close proximity. You would imagine that you are breathing in and out of the whole hand and wrist. So, and that would go both ways, right? So when you exhale, you would imagine breathing out stagnant chi, pain and illness from the joints, the whole hand and the wrist. Then when you inhale, visualize that you're breathing in pure heavenly healing chi into all the joints. So exhale, expelling stagnant chi, pain and illness. Inhale, drawing in healing chi. And of course, we're still doing the reverse breathing because we have intention to move the chi strongly in and out of the joints. Now, you can do this with the normal abdominal breathing, but it won't be as strong as with reverse breathing. Now you can get to the point where your mind is able to imagine breathing in and out of the whole body, all the joints of the body. Now this is different than skin breathing, because the skin breathing, the whole surface of your body is breathing in and out, okay? So in joint breathing, it's the joints that are breathing, so your mind is focused on bringing the chi into the joint and leading the stale chi out. It's similar, but different emphasis of where the mind wants to be. But in the beginning, just stick with the joints you want to work on the most, because it does take some mental concentration and internal feeling to imagine you're breathing in and out of all your joints at the same time. Now with this joint breathing or four gates breathing or Baogong breathing, your mind, of course, has to be in the exercise or it won't work. The chi goes where the mind leads it. So the mind can't be somewhere else and be able to effectively lead the chi in and out of the joint. So this requires concentration on the exercise. However, when we get to the movement, so we're saying we're going to heal fingers. Gentle movement. So what we would do is start maybe with the base joint of the fingers in order to help improve the circulation to the rest of the finger. So we would just roll the base joint so it's like little finger, ring finger, middle finger, index finger, and then rolling down and rolling up. And you can add thumb. So you can do both hands at once. It takes a little while. Now this is very relaxed. And important thing is not to overdo it. So no muscular force, very gentle bending. And I'm just bending the base joint, the joint closest to the hand, to the palm. So this is the first exercise you would do. Then the second exercise, and you would do this maybe 50 times. The guiding principle is you want the joint to become warm. And this will take longer when the temperature, the external temperature is cooler. You want the joint to become warm. Then the next movement is just to open and close very gently. So no muscular force. And the good news is you can do something else, well, not with your hands, but with your mind while you're doing this, okay? So just, and again, you do the movements until the joint gets warm, and then maybe continue for another 50 repetitions. Just open and close. This is so simple for the fingers because they only move, like they only open and the close, okay? So there's not a lot of need for variation in the direction of the movement. Now we have a guideline. Another guiding principle is that when you do these exercises, you don't want to overdo it. Mm-hmm. So 24 hours after you've done your exercise, if your joint pain is worse than usual, and we have to say that holding other factors constant, like the weather and like what you've eaten, or in some cases imbibed. So there are some foods that you may find will aggravate your joint pain. Among the culprits, usual culprits are dairy and gluten, and drinks, well, milk being dairy might be an aggravator. So you have to go by your own experience because some people will be more affected than others by what they eat. Temperature, if the doctor says that, you feel, if you tell the doctor that you feel their pain is worse when the weather changes and the doctor says, poo-poo, that's all in your mind, it's not. Because of your Qigong paradigm, human Qi is influenced by the Qi that and the environment surrounding it, which is Earth Qi and Heaven Qi. So we're talking about the atmospheric factors of having chi, like barometric pressure and air temperature, and they do affect human chi. So it's not your imagination, it's real. So if 24 hours passes and the weather's changed from bright, warm, and sunny to cold, cloudy, and rainy, and you hurt worse, you probably say, well, that doesn't indicate that I overdid the exercise. So if other things are constant, other factors are constant, and you say, oh, I hurt much more than before, you did too much. Okay, maybe too many repetitions, or maybe they're not relaxed enough. So if you put any kind of muscular force into it, you probably aggravate the pain. So this is just very gentle. So then if we go to wrists, so if you want to heal wrists that are injured or arthritic, the Chinese saying, move the pain away, that's kind of what we're talking about. That's a folk saying, but maybe not based on a deep understanding of why it works, but move the pain away is a common Chinese saying. So move the pain away with regard to the wrist would be gentle movement, gentle movement. Over the wrists, of course, we've got a lot more variation in the angles of the movement. So I can circle. I don't know. I cannot circle both wrists in the same direction, okay? So it would be one's going counterclockwise and one's going clockwise. Yeah, that's perfectly okay. And then you have your opposite direction circling. And you would have your up and down, very gentle, and your right and left, very gentle. So big difference between this and the muscle tendon change where I'm doing this, okay? So this very gentle movement. Let's see, we're circling right and left, up and down. That probably covers it for the wrists. And the challenging thing about this mode of healing is you have to do it, okay? So a lot of people would prefer just to pop a pill and to mask the pain or do something. I don't know what the other pharmaceuticals might do for arthritis in terms of improving the situation, but you always have to consider the trade-off there where the pharmaceutical has side effects. Sometimes they talk about it suppresses your immune system. So then, is that something you really want to do? So this has the benefit of not having those kind of side effects. It has side benefits, but you have to do it, which probably means that you're going to have to do 3 times a day. It's going to take maybe 5 minutes or more in each session to do this. But anytime you're able to just open and close the fingers or circle the wrists, you can just do that. Again, with the caveat that you don't want to overdo it, particularly at first when you're not used to the exercises. You can do this as much as you can every day. So just remember slow and gentle movement. So. Yeah. So in this case, it might be morning, midday, and evening, and especially suggested that you do the exercises before you go to sleep so that You help to eliminate or reduce chi stagnation before you sleep, and then your healing during your sleep will be strengthened because you've eliminated the stagnation before you went to sleep. Now there's another mode. In addition to the leading the chi through the two different types of breathing and then the movement, there's massage. And I'll talk about that next time. We can massage the joints. And then there's massage of the actual joint itself. And then there's a cavity press where we would use acupuncture points. Or I guess we should say acupressure points, because we're not using needles to puncture, but we use acupressure points to help promote the chi flow. And then we use the massage. And next week we'll talk about that. And the massage also applies to all the joints, although with some joints, of course, self-massage is going to be more difficult than others. Fingers, of course, and wrists are absolutely accessible to self-massage. But if you're dealing with back or shoulder, hip joint, it would be good maybe to have someone to be helping you massage. So we'll look at that next week. And let me ask if you have questions on anything we've covered today.
Question: how long do you do the breathing, like in the beginning?
Oh, yeah, I did want to point out, the good thing to do the breathing, if you're going to do like 10-15 minutes of joint Qigong in one session, to start off with the breathing, and to do that for maybe up to 5 minutes. And then to do the movement and massage, and to then end with maybe 2-3 minutes of the breathing. The more you put into it, the more you'll get out of it. With, again, the proviso that you don't want to overdo it. And here's, what I say about the Qigong, it's Gong Fu. Gong Fu is concerted effort over a long time. So it does take effort to do, like once a week isn't going to make much difference. However, if you use the movements, any time of the day, it doesn't have to be like a complete session. You can use the movements at any time that you're able to move your hands or your wrists, move your fingers or your wrists, just as maybe you're doing something else with your mind. That helps. Yeah. So in the winter, I have to do this. I've got a couple of arthritic joints on my index fingers. I'm not sure why it's those two fingers. I have to figure this out. But so I'll do this as I'm watching TV, or maybe, you're talking to somebody on Zoom or FaceTime or something like that, so you have something to hold up your device, so you don't have to use your hands, and you can just do this as you're talking to them. And Dr. Young will do this a lot. If during the seminars, he'd be talking to people, and maybe he would be like stretching or doing these exercises as he was chatting with people. So make use of the time so that you can have the more healing activity for the joints. Oh, I should mention, in addition to this one where we roll down the base joint, you can also, first the base joint, then you can do this. So I'm rolling all the fingers, but all the joints are moving. So like this. It's a little bit different than this, but again, very gentle, very gentle. I have to be careful with you do this and then the pain goes away, and it will. If you do this enough, it will, like, oh, no more pain. Then you stop doing it. And then a couple of days later, oh, pain's back. So you have to remember that, the pain is a nice reminder to do it. But when you don't have the pain, you still have to remember to do it. Except, we get to summer, and I don't have to do it in the summer because I probably should do it in the summer, but they don't hurt. They don't hurt in the summer, and that's all to do with the heaven chi being warm and much more conducive to the joint health than the winter chi. Also beware of the external influences of cold and wind. So that means cover the joints, keep them warm, because if you're out with the joints uncovered, cold and wind of winter will penetrate into the joint and make the situation worse. So keep the joints warm. Unfortunately, I don't know, it's a crazy trend in society for people going out in the winter dressed like it were summer. And I keep thinking those people in 20 or 30 years are going to have all kinds of joint problems. And then they're going to wonder why. Other questions?
No questions here. Definitely feeling some more warmth and less tightness in my wrists.
Yeah, it's after a while you might become maybe sort of nicely addicted to the feeling. And this feeling is, as I'm doing this now, I think this is so nice because it's soothing to my joints. Yeah, and also, of course, watch. It's sometimes a good idea to keep a diary of what you eat to see how things affect you. Because you may find that various foods will make you feel better or worse. And as I'm thinking about next week in massage, I should look into foods as well. Because you want to, as you adjust to the fall and winter and the environmental change from in the summer from heat to wind in the fall, and then in the winter you change from wind to cold, although I don't think the wind entirely goes away in the winter. So the environmental influence will greatly affect how your joints feel, and in fact, more than joints. Yeah. Oh, in regard to pain, I don't know if I mentioned it, but if you can't do this without pain, the saying is you go a little bit into the pain. So then you would have to do fewer repetitions, but more often, until the pain started to ease up. So morning, midday, and before bed. There is the book and DVD also, I believe, by Master Yang on arthritis, Qigong for arthritis. It tells you a lot about how to use Qigong for other illnesses as well. One of the things he points out in the book is the importance of spirit. So spirit is if the spirit is high, the chi will be strong. Okay, and that's just kind of common sense, because if your spirit is low, how can your chi be high? So how can your chi be strong if the spirit is low? But the spirit also give you the will to do the exercises. And an importance also for your commitment to the exercises is to understand how and why they work and what to expect from them. So I tell you that as you do these exercises, don't expect to feel major improvement for at least 3 months. And so if you do this for 2 weeks and you say it's not working, no, you have to be the patience, because of course you didn't acquire the injury or arthritis in a matter of a few weeks. It was a matter of years. So, but fortunately, it won't take years to heal, but it will take 3 to 6 months before you say, "Oh yeah, I think it's working." So during that interval, till you feel like you say, "Oh yeah, it's working," you need to have the thing. I know it will work. I believe it will work, and I'm going to keep doing it, and I know why it's going to work. Instead of saying, "Well, my Qigong teacher said do this, and I don't know, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't." So, and then, of course, the good old placebo effect, where the body heals itself because the mind says, "Hey, my arthritis should be getting better," and that's not to be underrated, because the body and mind can heal itself. You can't rely solely on that. But yeah, it helps if you say, "Yeah, I know this will work for me. I believe this is working." All right, so thanks for tuning in today.